So you've set up your first game of Fallout Wasteland Warfare, you're excited to get stuck in, you move your super mutant into close combat with Nora and you roll the dice to see if you turn her into a wasteland tomato passata. But then you see all these weird symbols on the dice and you've no idea what any of them actually mean. Well, don't worry, because by the end of this video you'll know what all of these symbols mean and what the purpose of each one of these dice actually is. So first of all, let's identify what these dice are and what their importance is. This larger white d20 is our skill dice. This is the dice you'll be using most often. These d12 dice are effect dice. They're primarily rolled alongside the skill dice as modifiers to determine the outcome of extra effects that are usually introduced when you use a certain type of weapon. So for example, the black dice is the damage effect dice and primarily adds extra damage points. The green dice is the accuracy dice and obviously modifies accuracy. The yellow dice is the armor reduction dice and usually lowers your target's armor in an attack roll. It's not a fun one to have rolled against you though. Then we've got the special effect dice, which helps trigger special effects that may be available due to a weapon or an item. Then we've got the armor dice. Now this dice determines how much, if any, damage is blocked by your armor. So that's what all the dice are for, but what do all the little icons mean? Well, on the skill dice you can sometimes see these little cog icons. This counts as a value of 1 in a skill test, but equally counts as 1 action point, which some models can use to carry out quick actions. You can find out more info about quick actions on page 40 of your core rules book, just in case you want to read more about them. You then have exclamation points. These also count as 1 in a skill test, but they also enable some characters to trigger critical attacks and effects when they've collected enough of them. You'll find more info about that on page 53 of the core rules book. If you see an X on your d20 skill dice, you've unfortunately failed the test, but sometimes there can be a little cog on there as well, just to make you feel a little less like a loser. Now let's look at the effect dice. This little explosion icon means extra damage. If you roll this in an attack, you'll do 1 extra damage equal to the amount of explosions on your dice. In a very similar way, these little broken helmets reduce armor. So if you see these on a roll, you reduce the target's armor by 1 for every helmet on your roll. If you see any of these negative numbers on your effect dice, these are great. They modify the number rolled on your d20 white skill dice. You'll love seeing these on your own rolls because they'll make it more likely you'll pass your skill test. So just to give you an example here, let's say Aspirant Goddard is wanting to use his assault rifle. In order to use the assault rifle, we're going to match this icon to his character card. So we need to roll a perception check, which is 3. But for argument's sake, let's just say we roll the dice and we get a 4. Which would mean that he would fail the test, but with the assault rifle we get to roll a black and a green dice. So let's say he rolls a really good roll here on the black and gets 2, and then equally rolls a -2 on the green. Because this is an accuracy dice, which increases our chances of succeeding, this then lowers this number by 2, which means he then passes the test and does an extra 2 points of damage. If you want to take a read through everything we've covered so far, it's all on page 11 of your core rulebook. But the most complicated part of understanding your dice will likely be this part, the special effects. You'll find these icons on weapon and item cards, and once you know what you're looking at, they aren't actually too difficult to understand. Let's say that paladin of ours was using a laser rifle. You can see here that in short range I would roll a black and blue dice, so let's do that. Now let's say that on my blue dice there are 2 Nuka-Cola bottles. Well, that triggers the special effect on the weapon card. I can use one of those Nuka-Cola bottles to enable one of the damage I inflict to ignore my target's armor, or I could use both of them to inflict a burning effect on my target. And just in case you're wondering, yes, since I had 2 Nuka-Cola bottles, I could trigger the first effect twice on my target. There are some additional rules to special effects and things to keep in mind, but that's really the crux of it. If you want to read more about them, you'll find all this information on page 20 of your core rulebook. But listen, one of the best ways to learn and understand these skill dice is to actually just play a few games on your own to get a grasp of things. And thankfully, there's a full solo AI mode in Fallout Wasteland Warfare, and this video right here will explain how to set that up and play.